Tell me why the moon changes shape. Here's the table of contents. We're going to see parts about the full moon over the farm on page 4, 29 days, the moon goes missing, back to the beginning, think about it, and there's even a glossary at the end. Oops. Full moon over the farm. Nick was excited. He had just arrived at his grandma's farm to spend the summer there. The first night, sitting with Grandma on the front porch, Nick saw a full moon. "Look," he said, "it's so bright tonight, and it's a perfect circle." "That's right," his grandma said, "but we don't see a full moon all the time." Away from the bright lights of the city, you can see the moon more clearly. Did you know that? The farther you are away from cities, the easier it is to see the moon. Nick thought about that. "I know the moon is a sphere," he said, "just like the sun." "You're right," she said, "but we don't always see it that way. Let's keep watching the moon together, and when you notice it changing, you can draw a little picture on my calendar." That night, Nick drew the moon as a perfect circle. He wondered how long it would stay that way, and what would happen next. Make a guess. Does the moon look the same in the United States as it does in Australia? I'm going to tell you that yes, it does. Did you guess? It does. The moon may look like a flat circle, but it's more like a ball. 29 days. A week passed. Nick realized that the moon was the shape of a half circle. "That's weird," he said. "What happened?" "The moon itself is the same size it always is," Grandma said, "and the sun is still shining on half of it. What changes is how much of the sunlit part we can see." She explained that the moon orbits the Earth about every 29 days. Earth is also orbiting the sun. The lighted surface of the moon will always appear bigger or smaller to us, depending on where the moon is in its orbit. We call these different views of the moon lunar phases. Lunar means moon. "How many lunar phases are there?" Nick asked. "That's a tricky question," Grandma said. "Some people say 4 or 8 or even more. Scientists don't always agree. These are the phases of the moon that happen every month, and the moon orbits the Earth once. You can see that from the moon, the new moon looks like this. It's dark on this side. From the Earth, the first quarter moon is lit up on the right half. The full moon is over here. The lit up surface is pointed toward the moon. And the third quarter moon is a half moon, but the lit up surface is the left side instead of the right. The moon goes missing. Soon the moon began to rise very late at night. Nick went to sleep too early to see it, but then the moon was still there in the morning. One day, a tiny sliver of the moon was visible all day long. Grandma explained that this meant a new moon was almost here. A new moon. A new moon is when the moon moves between the Earth and the sun. The half facing us is completely dark. Here's the new moon again. When the dark side is facing the Earth, that's a new moon. The crescent moon is almost a new moon. At least this one is. "This is a normal part of the orbit?" Nick asked. "The moon is still up there, but without any sunlight on it?" "The sun is still shining on the half that's not facing us," Grandma reminded him. "We can't see the moon tonight at all." She had set up an easel and was mixing some oil paints. "What are you painting?" Nick asked. "It's a surprise. You can't see this tonight either." "Do other planets have moons that orbit them?" I wonder. You could visit a library or go online with an adult to find the answer to that question. The moon is always orbiting Earth, even when we can't see it. A few days later, Nick noticed that the moon was back at sunset. He saw a skinny, lighted edge of the moon very near the setting sun. Listener, reader, do you know what this moon is called? Grandma said that this was called a crescent moon and pointed out that it was lighted on the right edge. "Bright, right, growing light," she said. This came true over the next 2 weeks. Nick could see more and more of the moon each night. More of the lighted side of the moon was facing the Earth. Did you know that if you can see light on the right side of the moon, then it is getting brighter each night? Bright, right, growing light. The moon doesn't change shape, but we see it from a different viewpoint. Back to the beginning. Eventually, the moon looked full again. It was the same perfect circle Nick had seen the first night of his visit. Wow, Nick said. He drew in the last entry on his chart, a white circle. The moon is back where it started. But he could see that the real moon had shadowy splotches that he hadn't drawn in. What are those big gray spots? Do you know what the big gray spots are, reader? There are thousands of large craters or holes in the moon, and there could be millions of small craters. I've never gotten close enough to check, Grandma said, smiling, but I read that they are huge lakes of hardened lava. The next morning, Nick's dad came to pick him up. See you later, my little astronomer, Grandma said. She handed him the painting she'd finished. It was Nick staring up at the full moon. A telescope makes something far away seem larger and closer. Think about it. Many cultures around the world have folk tales about people living on the moon. People have been studying the moon for hundreds of years, but scientists still have questions. What are some of yours? What phase was the moon on the day you were born? Go online with an adult and look for a moon phase calendar. I think I'm going to do that before we leave this read aloud. What moon phase was the moon on the day I was born? Moon phase calendar. Let's see. I was born in 1987. Way back when. My birthday is February. Here we are. Let's go. February 1987. The moon was a waning gibbous moon on my birthday. See if you can figure out what my birthday is, and let me know. Bye for now.